For a few years now, there has been much talk about a group of countries capable of challenging the all-powerful G7 and who, armed with significant growth expectations and a great demographic strength, threaten to change the world order as we know it. This group of countries has a name that you have surely heard of, the BRICS. But, what are the BRICS? Why are they becoming so famous? Can they really break the prevailing world order? BRICS is an acronym that refers to a group of 5 countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, whose main common characteristic is that they are emerging economies and have significant regional influence. Additionally, in October 2023, the organization approved the invitation of new members. These new members are Argentina, Ethiopia, Iran, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, all of whom, except Argentina, accepted the invitation. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, we will talk about the new members later. Hello to all the community of Finance for All, welcome to another video. Since 2009, BRICS leaders have been holding annual summits. These meetings address various issues ranging from economic cooperation to security topics. The major step taken by BRICS happened in 2014, when they founded the New Development Bank, also known as the BRICS Bank. The purpose of this institution is to finance infrastructure and sustainable development projects in BRICS countries and other emerging economies with funds unrelated to the United States and European countries. This move set off alarms in the West. Are the BRICS trying to challenge the hegemony of the all-powerful G7? For those who don't know, the G7 is an international coalition composed of 7 of the world's 10 most advanced economies: the United States, Canada, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, and Japan. These nations meet annually to discuss and promote agreements on major global economic and political issues. Additionally, the European Union is also represented in the G7 meetings, although it is not considered a member as such. But, answering the question of whether the BRICS can be a problem for the G7's hegemony, the answer is yes and no. Let's start with the bad news. The problem for BRICS is that the G7 is a very united geopolitical group. All its members, except Japan, are part of NATO, and Japan is one of the United States' biggest military allies. Additionally, all the countries are liberal democracies, have very important historical ties, and, except for Japan, all G7 countries have very similar cultures. Moreover, there are numerous intertwined agreements and treaties among G7 members. In contrast, things change within BRICS. South Africa and Brazil have no historical ties with any of the members, and the cultures of all of them are as different as chalk and cheese. But the most worrying aspect is the relationship between China and India, as both countries are vying to overshadow each other's influence in Asia. In fact, both countries have a significant border conflict in the Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh regions, and it is not uncommon to see videos of Indian and Chinese soldiers literally fighting over this area. Furthermore, the political systems of its members differ greatly. While China has a socialist dictatorship, Brazil, India, and South Africa are democratic republics, and Russia resembles more an autocracy than anything else. But what about the new members? Well, there's also trouble here. It is true that Iran has recently improved its relations with the United Arab Emirates and, especially, with Saudi Arabia, but it is also true that Iran, a reference country for Shia Islam, has geopolitical interests totally opposed to those of Saudi Arabia, a country that leads the Sunni Islamist bloc. So, the balance within the organization is hanging by a thread, and all members struggle to reach agreements and meet the strategic goals of the organization's meetings. So, if the entry of new members further increases the differences among BRICS states, why did they allow new members to join? There are 2 main reasons. The first is to add muscle to the organization, as all the new BRICS members are leading countries in their respective regions, something that gives the bloc much solidity. On the other hand, all new members are energy powers. Despite having major economic powers among the original members, only Russia and, to a much lesser extent, Brazil, are energy powers. The rest are countries that need to import large amounts of gas and oil, and if we look at the new members, almost all of them are major energy exporters, especially of gas and oil. Therefore, what BRICS is seeking is to secure their energy supplies in case of conflict with the West. Another problem for BRICS is that their members' economies have evolved very differently. While China has experienced spectacular economic growth and has become the world's second-largest economy, other members, such as Brazil and Russia, have faced periods of stagnation or recession. These disparities can result in different priorities and economic approaches. Also, the lack of cohesion among its members can cause cracks in the organization when tough times come. For example, will a country like Brazil risk facing international sanctions if it helps Russia too much? How will India position itself if China tries to invade Taiwan? Will all countries help South Africa if there were a hypothetical coup in the country? In short, it is not clear how the organization will react when different black swans occur. However, not all is bad news for BRICS. Until the new members joined the organization, the 5 countries accounted for 43% of the world's population and over 25% of the world's GDP. In fact, China or India alone each have approximately twice the population of the entire G7. But with the new members, BRICS' share of the world's GDP rises from 25% to 30%, a significant figure. The situation is much better for BRICS if, when measuring GDP, we consider each country's prices. In that case, the original BRICS bloc has already surpassed the G7 in GDP and purchasing power parity, a remarkable figure if we consider that in 1995 the gap between the two blocs was 28 percentage points. This demographic power and emerging economic power are the perfect showcase for recruiting more members for the organization. In fact, more than 40 countries had expressed interest in joining BRICS, and 23 had formally applied for membership. Earlier, we talked about everything that separates BRICS from being a cohesive economic organization and why it is very complicated for BRICS to consider any political goal in the future. However, these countries have a common interest above all else, trying to be independent of the West. And for that, BRICS has a plan. Being independent of the West is very difficult if you have to use their banking interconnection system, the famous SWIFT, to make any money transfer. And it is also challenging to become independent from the West if all international transactions, even between BRICS members, are done in the currency of the West's leader, that is, the dollar. But what if BRICS could develop their own banking interconnection system and their own currency to trade among themselves or with third countries? This is BRICS' secret plan to end the West's hegemony: attack the dollar. During the 14th BRICS summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that BRICS countries plan to issue a new global reserve currency. The project could leverage blockchain technology and smart contracts. The currency could revolutionize the global financial system, although it is still unclear how it could be done. One possible option is that the currency is used only for international transactions and that its value is tied to a combination of the member countries' local currencies. Another option is that the currency is backed by a giant oil reserve. The problem is that oil is a commodity whose price is very volatile and whose value will tend to decrease over time as renewable energy gradually retires black gold. In short, oil is the opposite backing of what a currency needs. A final option is that the currency is backed by a large joint gold reserve. Not for nothing, both India and China have been accumulating large amounts of gold for years. Among the 5 founding members of BRICS, they hold more than 15% of the world's gold reserves. In fact, Russia, India, and China are in the top 10 countries with the largest gold reserves. And you may be wondering why BRICS would need to back their new currency with gold or oil if the dollar is not backed by anything. Well, what keeps the dollar afloat is the world's trust in the system and the strength of US institutions. And now I ask you, would you sleep soundly if your savings or your company's savings depended on the institutions of countries like India, China, Brazil, Russia, or South Africa? Nevertheless, BRICS' decision to use their own currency to trade among themselves and with third countries could have several implications for both the United States and the dollar. What are they? Let's see. Reduction in the demand for the dollar. If BRICS countries decide to trade in their own currencies or a joint currency, it would reduce the demand for the dollar, causing it to depreciate relative to other currencies. This would mean that the Federal Reserve of the United States would have to be more restrained in printing new money and would have to raise interest rates. Lower economic growth. An economy with higher interest rates means an economy with less economic growth, as families would find it more challenging to borrow money to consume and businesses to invest in their development and growth. Reduction in dollar reserves. If countries perceive that the use of the dollar as a reserve currency is decreasing, they might reduce their own dollar reserves and use other currencies. This could further reduce the demand for the dollar, causing the United States to raise interest rates even more and entering a very dangerous, vicious cycle. The problem with all this is that the BRICS themselves cannot agree on how to carry out this matter. Establishing a common currency or agreeing on stable exchange rates among their own currencies would require considerable coordination among BRICS countries, which, as we have seen, have very different economies, fiscal policies, and political structures. For now, member countries will limit themselves to trying to use their local currencies more in their commercial relations with each other. And now that you know all this, what do you think? Can BRICS and their new members end the hegemony of the dollar and the G7? Feel free to leave your answer in the comments.